What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande, bringing you another edition of FA Sports Talk here, just talking about all the things that are going on in the sports world as sports begin to return, MLB, NBA, NHL, preparing for our fantasy football leagues to hopefully start on time here in September. Grande, how are things with you? How's life been?
Life has been pretty good. It's getting better for everybody, right? Other than Florida, because Florida still sucks. But sports are coming back. It's just something to take our minds off everything else going on. But so everything's been good, you know. How are things with you, John?
Yeah, I mean, they're fine. Again, like I said, I've been running a bunch of these best ball drafts over on
Right.
Fantasy Alarm, best ball tens, hosting them. Right now it's like Fridays and Sundays, sometimes Wednesdays, but building up ADPs, putting in a lot of man hours in these best ball drafts, getting a lot of different exposures to players. Definitely nailing down some that wide receiver depth that we talked a lot about heading into the draft season. How we're all going running back early, and that's sort of forcing us all in these middle rounds to explore the wide receivers. I know you and I talked about briefly before we jumped on air that there's some ADPs that kind of jumped out to you. What are these wide receivers that you're looking at right now?
So, I think there are some pretty interesting values, and I'm not going to go all the way down the list. I think we've heard enough about Anthony Miller, Preston Williams, and all those guys down there. I'll just go like the tier above. And I think there are potential top 15 candidates. And I'll start with Tyler Boyd, who, gets an infusion at quarterback. I mean, we're talking about a guy who had 150 or slightly under 150 targets last year out of the slot. And in comes Joe Burrow, who flourished obviously at LSU, but his number one receiver at LSU, John, was Justin Jefferson, who primarily plays out of the slot. I mean, Jefferson had 100 something catches last year at LSU. Now we're talking about Tyler Boyd over a 16 game season, hopefully. A guy who is coming off a season 148 targets. Yes, AJ Green is healthy, but
Right.
AJ Green's going to draw a lot of attention, and Tyler Boyd's going to be able to abuse any pretty much slot receiver or slot corner that's going to be able to guard him. So, I mean, we're talking about wide receiver 31, 32, 33, depending on what sites you're looking at. Fantasy Arm, we have him at 33, if I counted correctly. And then I think Marvin Jones with Matthew Stafford coming back. I mean, that offense has been very pass heavy in the past. It's not like, yes, they obviously added running back help, but they don't run the ball. We haven't seen a 200 attempt rusher in Detroit in like 6 or 7 years. We're talking about Joik Bell and Reggie Bush being the last two backs in Detroit that ran for 200 attempts. They're going to be pass happy. Marvin Jones, someone who, we're not just looking at it in PPR formats. I mean, we don't talk about standard leagues very often anymore because they're a thing of the past. I don't love standard leagues, but Marvin Jones scores, man. He gets in the end zone a bunch. He scored 9 times last year. With Stafford, I love Marvin Jones. I mean, Kenny Galladay is clearly a wide receiver one going into the season, but we're talking about Marvin Jones, who's wide receiver 40, they were 2 touchdowns apart. Yes, Marvin Jones had a 4 touchdown game last year to kind of maybe pad his stats a little bit, but hey, that happens. And Marvin Jones has had a past of getting in the end zone. So I think those are two guys for me that stand out, and not in the quote value tier. These are like the middle tier guys, but two guys I think that could, I could see Tyler Boyd if we see another 130 targets finish in the top 15. I could also see Marvin Jones with Stafford score 10 times. And if he scores 10 times, I mean, we're talking about a guy with top 20 potential. So just two guys that have really, for me, lately, have really shot up my boards. And like we talk about a lot of names above them, I think there are a lot of like question marks. Like just for instance, I'll just throw names out there.
Sure.
I mean, DJ Chark is wide receiver 23. His quarterback, not too great. At least, he had moments, but like
Yeah,
Gardner Minshew's.
it's definitely more of a running offense. I think you're building upon the fact that the Jags aren't expected to win a lot of games, so like maybe they're just figuring, better or for worse, Minshew's gonna have to, throw the football there.
Marquise Brown, who another offense, very run heavy. They drafted another running back, and Lamar Jackson threw 400 times. Will he throw more this year? Probably. But I mean, those are two guys. We have, let's see, Keenan Allen, who's wide receiver 20. Do we think Keenan Allen gets the volume? Sure. But is Tyrod Taylor going to give him the volume? And is Justin Herbert going to likely give him the volume that Phillip Rivers has in the past? No, I mean, these are just Devontae Parker, even with the return of Preston Williams. I mean, these are all guys that are
these guys that you like Tyler Boyd better than, right?
Yeah, I would rank Tyler Boyd. I would draft Tyler Boyd in front of all four of those guys. He's the one who got the upgraded quarterback. He's the one who the quarterback throws the most to in terms of like position. So I'm excited for Tyler Boyd being drafted at wide receiver 31, 32, 33 even, because I mean, talk about a steal in your 6th, 7th rounds. I mean, geez.
Yeah, someone I've been targeting sort of in that same realm is Marvin Jones. Has been Emmanuel Sanders. Now I know there's been some detractors on him because he's going to be the number 2 receiver technically in an offense now that has Alvin Kamara, who looks at 80 targets a game as a running back, and then you have, of course, Michael Thomas, who leads the world in targets every single season. But for me, this is like the first real year that feels like that I've seen a legitimate number 2 receiving option for the Saints. They've tried it with different guys, but nobody really has the talent that we've seen that Emmanuel Sanders will bring to the table. So he's been somebody that I've been, trying to grab in these later rounds. Right now, it's the average ADP sitting at 126. So, a 10th, 11th round pick in 12-team leagues. Again, he's not going to be the team's number 1 receiver. That's fine. But I think if we're looking at a guy that could, put up 800, 900 yards receiving as a wide receiver 2, and you're getting in the 10th, 11th round, I've been getting a lot of Emmanuel Sanders there. I feel like, there's a lot of hype around guys. I've seen Mecole Hardman, his ADP start rising a little bit, and, that's basically based off the offense, but he's at best the number 3 target guy at best, and that's behind Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, and then you don't know what the other options there, whether it's Sammy Watkins, Robinson stepped up last year at times. They have the running backs they throw the football to. So, seeing someone like Hardman, I see starting to go earlier. Sanders seemingly is falling a little bit. To me, is a guy that I've been targeting a lot.
Yeah, and I think the Saints' offense is in such a prime spot. I was looking at like some strength of schedules earlier. Saints have the 4th easiest strength of schedule for pass catchers in terms of like rated, I think PFF. And then I guess my one thing with Sanders, like, he's 33. Does that like concern you at all? It's not he's like he had almost 100 targets last year, so it's not like he slowed down much, but 33 is 33 in the NFL.
Yeah, I feel like people looked at him last year and kind of were a little bit disappointed out of the season that they got out of him, but he wasn't really in great situations. He was with a Broncos team that really had no quarterback play, and then he went to a very run-first 49ers team, Right. So, and I know Deebo Samuel excelled there at the end, but I think that was part because Sanders was there and defenses were maybe keying on him a little bit more. Again, this is just a huge upgrade in offensive game planning, and the fact that teams aren't going to be able to focus on him. Like, they're going to focus on shutting down Michael Thomas and be worried out of like a guy like Kamara out of the backfield, where I think you're going to get a lot of favorable matchups for Sanders. And again, a reliable number 2 target for Drew Brees. And I mean, not to mention, Jared Cook is still there at tight end. I mean, he was a very solid pass catching tight end last year for defenses to worry about as well. So I just think Sanders, for the price you're getting him at, there isn't too much of a risk here. To me, it's really only an upside play.
Jared Cook was so good at the end of the season. I think he had like his final handful of games, 7 games. He had 10 plus fantasy points.
Yeah.
I like Sanders. Also, did you see his Madden rating? I don't know if you saw the ratings. He is the 10th highest rated Madden wide receiver.
Emmanuel Sanders.
Out there. The same Emmanuel Sanders we are talking about.
I saw that Gronk, it was like a 97 or something, and people
95. He's number 3 highest rated tight end.
People are flipping out about that because he missed a year and all those things. To me, makes a lot of sense. I'm totally couldn't have guessed anymore. Um, any other ADPs for fantasy football that maybe you think are a bit interesting? I know we've done some of these best ball drafts together.
T1 McLaurin, I think, could be pretty interesting. I think he could be a high end wide receiver too. And if you want to point to, Haskins being a deterrent, I mean, look at the end of the year with the two pairings. I mean, we're talking, we had 457 1 slash line. We had a 131 for a touchdown, and then 7 catches, 9 targets, 86 the last 3 games with Haskins at the helm. I mean, look, I'm not saying Dwayne Haskins is going to break out. I'm also not saying he's going to not break out. He's a big arm. But
I actually like Haskins again. It's someone I've taken as a QB2 in these best balls. Knowing that Rivera is going in there and sort of implementing a new system, I think there's potential for him to, help elevate the game there of Haskins here. So I'm with you on McLaurin for sure.
I mean, it just, just because someone doesn't put up gaudy numbers doesn't mean he was clearly just throwing McLaurin the ball. I mean, we're talking about 24 targets or 21, 20 math the last 3 weeks. So I think McLaurin in that non-value tier, but second or third tier of guys could be interesting. I'm with you on the Mecole Hardman thing. Just looking at ADPs right now, if we're talking about the guys around him, let's see, Mecole Hardman. I would take Jamison Crowder, who's 1 slot ahead of him. We both are pretty bullish on Justin Jefferson. I know you've been on Justin Jefferson all off season. Sterling Shepard, if he stays healthy, I'm taking him over Mecole Hardman because I know the volume's going to be there for Sterling Shepard. So Anthony Miller, Preston. I mean, I guess I don't get it. That's just the Chiefs effect, right?
Yeah, I think it's the Chiefs effect. I think it's also, if something happens to a Tyreek Hill, people are expecting Mecole Hardman to be able to step in and, do exactly, some replication of the production. But we also thought that last year, and not to take anything away from him, because he actually did have a decent here, rookie season given the offense. 538 yards, he had 6 total touchdowns. I mean, not terrible numbers, but again, you're really hoping for a big leap here out of a guy given his ADP round. That again, it isn't gonna see top 3 targets likely, or is going to be at the very near end of the top 3 targets on that roster. So to me, I don't see why his ADP is up right now. But if you go to fantasyalarm.com/NFL/ADP, you go to our ADP page. We have the ADP trends, differences between June and July on how these players have been drafted, and we see that he's up 1.5 picks. Now again, not a huge jump, but it takes a lot to get these average picks to move. So people are really in on him and starting to draft him sooner than they were originally. And to me, I guess I get the allure of an upside play, but he's definitely not somebody that I think you're going to be able to start right away either. So,
I mean, you're talking about a guy who did have a good rookie year, but we didn't get a full season out of Tyreek Hill. And then once Tyreek Hill came back, I mean, those targets clearly were going to Cheetah and not Mecole Hardman. So do I think Mecole Hardman's fine for, if you have 3 or 4 solid receivers already? Sure. But is he going to be my weekly flex play? I would be extremely uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought, like I said, take him in best balls because there's going to be a game where he has 2 for 80 and a score, or something like that. And, he'll play for you then. Maybe play him on why am I blanking? What's the DFS site there that gives you the multipliers? Drawing a blank on it now. It's
Super Draft.
Yeah, Super Draft. Yes, Super something. Yeah, play him on Super Draft, right? It'll probably be a 2x multiplier one day, and you'll get some scoring there. So that's it though for any other interesting ADPs, or are we good here?
I mean, there's plenty of. We could go on for days, but I think those are a sneak peek of some ADPs that we like.
I agree 100% with you on that one. Again, go to the fantasyalarm.com/NFL/ADP page. You can see all the ADPs, trends, and whatnot there to get all your information to help you with your drafting. James, let's do a quick stop here with MLB. I know you and I have both been sort of a staunch, against playing fantasy baseball really this season, just with the unpredictability of what's going to happen in a 60-game season as it is. We're constantly seeing players test positive for COVID, not test positive for COVID, come back, return. Today we're recording here. We saw the news that Freddie Freeman was activated or cleared to return to his team. But then on the flip side, we saw that Yasiel Puig, who we thought was signing with the Braves, ended up testing positive in that contract, ended up being put on hold. The uncertainty of the season for me really had me against season-long fantasy baseball for this year. But I got sucked into helping co-manage a team earlier this week. And after that happened, I just sort of started getting the taste in my mouth to get a season going myself. So the Family Times podcast, which you've been a part of a handful of times now, we decided we're going to do a listener league. We're going to try to throw one together quickly, get a season-long roto league going. Because, again, once getting that whole feel of drafting a baseball team kind of got the itch again. Unfortunately, in that draft, I took Jacob deGrom 8th overall, and then 20 minutes later, he got hurt. So that's the perils of drafting this early. But let me know exactly. Do you have any interest here in baseball? Anything that's kind of grabbing at you? Because I know you and I are both big fantasy baseball players, but these are different circumstances.
I mean, in terms of season long, I don't. In terms of DFS, once the season ramps up, because I think the first couple weeks, and I talked to Howard on a video live stream not too long ago, and we were talking about the beginning of the season. There's going to be expanded rosters, and that's going to lead to a lot of pitching changes throughout a game. And we're going to be playing DFS, and your starters are going to throw 50 pitches, and that's going to be it the first couple weeks. So I think I'm really more interested in the DFS side of things. At least we'll, if Mike Trout comes down with COVID-19, I'll know before Thursday's slate. I won't have Mike Trout for my 2 weeks of season long, and then what's the point of having Mike Trout? Because then 2 weeks of the season are gone, and there's only 60 games. So I don't think I have, and I've held firm on this all off season. And now that the season has gotten shorter and shorter and shorter, it's not making me any more interested. Do I love baseball? Yes. Am I going to watch baseball? Yes. If the Yankees win a championship, am I going to, accept it? Absolutely. We're champions of the world.
I was gonna say, is there an asterisk next to that? But
they're
heavy favorites, so one of the best schedules supposedly coming out of the gate. So
well, I mean, we get the the East in both conferences isn't bad, so
it's not terrible.
I'm gonna lean towards DFS, and I mean that's always been my lean, regardless. You and I do the NBA DFS podcast. We talk DFS 24/7, so that's gonna be the lean for me this year. And I'm gonna pick the season long teams back up in 2021 if we do, because obviously uncertain,
okay.
Right? As long as everything goes in the right direction, 2021 is when I pick season longs back up. But I give it a DFS lean, and I'm sorry, there's just no season long interest for me this year.
Yeah, like I said, I was definitely 100% in your corner. But once I started drafting the other day, I just got sucked back in. I started looking to see what leagues I could join, looking at some best balls. Over on our sports.
Put out a tweet. I saw the tweet.
I put out the tweet. Yeah, I put out the tweet. If anybody needs a league, let me know. Nobody responded. I'm not that famous, so nobody cares. But if you're watching this now and need someone for your league, let me know. I'll play it. That's fine. As long as the settings aren't too weird, I'm in. So yeah. I mean, again, it's gonna be an interesting year. Like you said, with the players. Who knows? Half these guys, again, some of them aren't stretched out. Some of them are dealing with COVID. Some of them are away from the team. It's going to be a crapshoot, but at least everybody will be in the same boat, right? True. You just got to hope that you
get lucky.
Avoid the landmines better than other teams, basically.
It's luck. It's literally, if you're playing seasonal baseball and you win your leagues, is primarily because of luck.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to say it.
You know what? I won't even argue with you there. I think it'll primarily be luck as well. So, unless you're really pulling off some like
Right.
savvy in-season management, because I
Right.
mean, and we talked about this with Justin Fenster and I talked about this on Alarm After Hours on Monday. The importance of this year more than ever of being active in Fab on your waivers. You don't want to miss out on guys because things are going to be ever fluid here. If you see someone go on a hot streak and you have a guy that's cold, you can't wait for them anymore to break out of it.
Right.
Like you got to make that switch and hope those guys can help. And we're playing in roto leagues. We're not really into the head-to-head given the shortened season. So roto leagues, especially, if you have a guy that's not hitting 2 for 30 slump to begin the year, you got to get him out of there because your batting average is dead.
Right.
You got to find guys that are playing. So the in-season management probably this year more than ever will play a big role in champions for fantasy baseball.
I agree. If I were to be playing fantasy baseball, I would deploy that exact strategy.
We may be coming knocking. Who knows? We'll see how the FA Times Family Podcast Listener League works out. Maybe we'll sneak you in there and get you involved.
I am the one who knocks.
You are the one who knocks. That's true. All right, let's wrap this up with some basketball. We saved the best for last here. We have the NBA bubble, everything, and all the goodness that is going on there. Players testing positive, players breaking quarantine, players leaving for family emergencies, other guys not yet arriving in the bubble. We're again 2 weeks away basically from this all kicking off, and we think we know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of fluidness again on what's going to happen here. We just learned that Eric Bledsoe had tested positive, Russell Westbrook has tested positive, Montrezl Harrell had to leave the bubble for a family emergency, Zion Williamson hasn't made it into the bubble yet. There's a lot of big names and players that could make impacts here that we don't really know what's going on. What's your take here and everything over the last, we'll say, week or so with the NBA bubble?
I mean, it's definitely nerve-wracking if players continue to test positive, if they're going to be able to finish the season. But I guess that's kind of the case in every sport, right? We're all just, if people keep testing positive, is it going to get canceled? Is it going to get canceled? I think the NBA has done a good job. I was very excited for this snitch line that they have. I was really interested to see who got snitched on.
Shams is saying it's happening. They're using it. So
they are using it. Kelly, I don't know if you saw Kelly Oubre put out a tweet about like delivery service, and then someone did the exact opposite.
My boy
did the exact opposite of what Kelly Oubre said and had to go in quarantine. I mean, look, the Zion news is obviously probably the most notable because they're fighting for a playoff spot to begin with. And, I mean, them and Portland have probably been the two most noteworthy teams and names that everyone wants to see in the playoffs. If it's not New Orleans, it's Portland. If it's not Portland, it's New Orleans. We don't have a clue when Zion's going to come back. And obviously he shouldn't if this, family emergency is what it's said to be. Like, you take care of your family first. But without Zion, I mean, it's going to be a Brandon Ingram-led team, so that's going to be fun for DFS. We're going to get a lot of Brandon Ingram, Drew Holiday there, but it's not going to be good for them to sneak into the playoffs. And that would, like, if I was a betting man right now, I'm putting all my money on Portland to make the postseason. If that was somewhere in the Vegas odds where who's to make the postseason, I'm putting all my money on Portland over New Orleans. I don't think the Bledsoe news, for me, if you're testing positive on a team like Milwaukee, I don't think it matters as much because you've solidified that number one seed in the East. That is, of course, it's not serious. Like, Bledsoe came out and said he's asymptomatic, and I'm not trying to downplay COVID. I am at all. But he did come out and say he was asymptomatic, and so I don't think that matters as much as long as he can come back healthy. As opposed to like if Zion were to test positive instead of leaving the bubble, like that would be because hey, we're 13 days out from Utah and New Orleans tipping on the 30th. So I mean, it's been interesting. I think something we were talking about a little bit, Montrezl Harrell, like you just said, left, and Ivica Zubac hasn't even entered the bubble. So what are the Clippers going to do if they're without both those guys? I mean, is Joakim Noah really going to play
Is Noah
extended?
in the bubble yet? I mean, do we know?
Is Lillard? I mean, like I'd imagine because they signed him, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
they have to have one center in the at least. I worry about the Clippers beating a team like the Lakers who have two behemoths at center in JaVale McGee if they don't have any of these guys. And it's not like Montrezl Harrell is a big body. He's a
Yeah.
wide body, but he's 6'8" on stilts.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, like when he's wearing platform shoes, he's 6'8". So I mean they're gonna have a problem on their hands if Harrell or Zubac, primarily Harrell, right? Because he's the superior player. But if neither of those guys return, I think it could be a big problem. The bubble has been interesting. I have yet to watch Matthias Thybulle's YouTube. I heard he is the sensation. He's been recording every moment of the
Well,
bubble.
he's
He
got to
hasn't.
make himself valuable somehow.
True.
So,
That
you
is, I
know,
mean, that's fair. But I mean, I've said it from the start. I think Adam Silver and the NBA handled this tremendously, like with in terms of isolation and obviously it's you're in a bubble, so like things are gonna you're isolated and things people are gonna break
what do you think
rules.
about like Jordan Clarkson tweeting shotgunning tall boys? And is it who's this
Myers
guy in
Leonard,
Portland
Myers
also?
Myers Myers
Myers
Leonard
Leonard and
also.
Miami also. Are we worried at all that these guys because they have nothing else to do or just be like, drinking and ordering Postmates because they're in a bubble?
I mean, we see LeBron literally every Tuesday house like 50 tacos, which aren't obviously like great for you. And we see him, he drinks wine all the time. So, they're just doing it publicly because they literally have nothing else to do
Yeah.
except work out, play basketball, and then just do stupid
Royce
stuff.
O'Neal
Like,
sitting in like a kiddie tub. So,
right. I mean, I don't think it's going to like matter. I think it's just, what people do. Like this is just like they're not being swarmed by like fans and media and celebrity like they're just being like human beings
yeah.
when they're not, you know, playing basketball. So do I think it could be a little sloppy to begin with? I do. I think like we're not going to get 130 to 125 out the gate. I think we're going to see lower totals, but
Yeah.
I don't think that has anything to do with like them drinking as much as it. I mean, there was a long layoff, and a lot of people are coming back from a serious illness or trying to get themselves back
Yeah.
into game shape. So
Well, that's what I want to see. You say you're not sure if you'll see high totals because guys may be being a little rusty. Well, I wonder if we're gonna see higher totals because no one's playing any defense because they're all just winded, or is just it's gonna be like your YMCA game where it's really just played from 3 point line to 3 point line. They just jump back and forth and chuck shots up, get the long rebound, run back, chuck shots up, get the long rebound.
I mean, if that's the case, I'm putting my money on Houston right now
Right.
because nobody takes more 3 pointers than Houston. I mean, if we're
Right.
if we're talking in that format, no one's going to outshoot him. Harden's going to take 43s a game.
Fair. That is fair. Well, it'll be interesting to see, James, exactly how it all plays out. Any final thoughts here before we wrap this up?
I'm just talking about three sports in one stream is amazing. Like we're not just isolating ourselves to baseball or like it's all
And no disrespect to NASCAR and
of
MMA and
course.
esports and all the things that are actually doing very, very well. You even had a KBO playbook recently. Banked some tournaments for
Right.
some of our subscribers. So all of those things are fine. But I mean, we know what everybody's looking forward to. We're looking for the big four, and we're gonna get them all basically at the same time.
Right. Can't Bart Scott can't wait.
Can't wait. Can't wait. All right, for James Grande, John Impemba here. We'll get you guys next time.